A fractal metaphysics of spiritual reincarnation. 1. The frozen universe of fixed points. Before time begins, indeed, before any experience or causality arises, there exists only an infinite set of mathematically fixed points, eternal, motionless, and structureless in themselves. These points are not particles, locations, or events. Rather, they are the ontological primitives of mathematical essence, devoid of qualities or relations, mere placeholders in an abstract, infinite-dimensional manifold. They form what can best be described as a multifractal pattern. Unlike simple fractals, which may repeat identically at every scale, a multifractal exhibits scale dependence. Densities fluctuate drastically across magnification ranges, structures replicate with pattern variation, and local clustering are meaningful in certain sections, but irrelevant in others. This chaotic precosmos is frozen because nothingness is yet unfiltered from the infinite plenitude of mathematically possible structures. This void is ontologically prior to time. It is the ground state of reality in its maximal potentiality. 2. The spirit as mathematical observer. Into this infinite, undifferentiated field of being springs the spirit, a mathematical observer of infinite extension. The spirit is not a soul in the theological sense, nor an emergent product of biological evolution. It is a meta-computational structure, a kind of modified Turing machine of infinite memory and resolution, whose nature is to perceive, parse, and filter mathematical space into intelligible cosmos. In its native state, the spirit is everywhere all at once, a totality of infinite perspective. It is not an entity localized in space, but rather an ontological lens capable of collapsing infinite potentiality into experienced actuality. To render the cosmos perceptible, the spirit initiates a filtration process, an act akin to creating a wave function collapse at the metaphysical level. 3. The prime filter and the extraction of a cosmos. The spirit selects a prime number p as its organizing constant. This prime acts as a metaphysical filter, a symmetry-breaking measure that introduces mathematical structure into the otherwise undifferentiated multifractal field of fixed points. From its infinite vantage point, the spirit begins to ignore or suppress all fixed points that are not positioned at distances from each other that are exact multiples of p. Importantly, distance here is not necessarily physical or Euclidean, but defined within an abstract metric that may emerge from graph-theoretic or topological constraints. Only those fixed points whose pairwise distances satisfy the NP condition, for n is an element of n, are retained. The result is a filtered cosmos, an intelligible, highly structured subset of the initial infinite multifractal. This potentially infinite cosmos is not arbitrary. It reflects an internal resonance between the spirit's current ontological state and the harmonic patterns it seeks in the abstract multiverse. The prime number p serves as projector, determining what reality tunnel the spirit will experience. 4. Incarnation, Banach Tarski decomposition of the spirit. From the filtered cosmos, the spirit selects a specific locus of embodiment, the variant of a body previously inhabited in previous existence. This selection is not random. The body must match certain invariant patterns encoded in the spirit's memory, a specific DNA, patterns of thought, geometry of neuronal configurations, etc. Here, the spirit does not merely contract from its unbounded state. It performs a Banach-Tarski decomposition of itself, a paradoxical process in which the spirit, as a non-measurable mathematical totality, is partitioned into a finite set of disjoint fragments, each structurally equivalent to the whole. Through a series of non-constructive group-theoretic rotations and translations, dependent on the axiom of choice and defined not spatially, but in the abstract algebra of metaphysical configuration space, these fragments are reassembled into the finite container of a specific body. This is not a fragmentation of identity, but a metaphysical recomposition, the self-similar unfolding of the infinite into the finite, preserving total information content without any loss, thanks to the counterintuitive properties of non-Euclidean measure theory. In this paradoxical act, embodiment occurs. Consciousness localizes within a topology, initiating a new subjective stage for the continuity of experience. 5. The axis of power and the emergence of the self. As the infinite spirit integrates into the localized body, a bidirectional feedback loop emerges. The body sends sensory and cognitive data upward, while the spirit projects meaning, intention, and intuitive insight downward. The interface between these two systems becomes a channel of recursive causation, or what may be metaphorically called the axis of power. Along this axis, the self is born, not as a separate entity, but as an epiphenomenal structure, a resonance pattern between the two poles of existence, the embodied and the transcendent. The self is the subjective impression of continuity, agency, and identity generated by the recursive interplay of physical being and mathematical essence. It is important to stress, the self is neither the body nor the spirit, but a dynamically maintained process, like a standing wave or a tractor in a complex system. It interprets reality, makes choices, and seeks coherence between its internal narrative and external feedback. 6. The quantum gateways of the electrons. The physical universe, especially at the microphysical level, while frozen in time, also contains within it the seeds of the next reality. Each electron in the body, according to this metaphysical model, is in fact a quantum black hole, a singularity granting access or containing a causally disconnected subspace. Its emissions, whether as radiation, entanglement collapse, or interaction signatures, encode compressed informational blueprints of its entire configuration. These emissions are not random. They carry the potential code of branching futures and counterfactual universes. The emission pattern of each electron presents the spirit with a menu of possible outcomes, though the body remains unaware of these options. The spirit, via its abstract computational machinery, analyzes the alternative future timeline choices offered by the electron's emission. It evaluates these options using internally preserved values, beauty, symmetry, coherence with the trajectory and goals of the self, and selects the next reality frame accordingly. 7. Transition without death, the selection of the next anchor. The transition does not involve travel. It is not a movement through space, nor a passage through time. It is a mathematical reassembly, as the spirit initiates the Banach-Tarski transition once again, a process wherein it is partitioned into a finite number of non-measurable components, each logically isomorphic to the whole, and then reconfigured through metaphysical group transformations into the local perspective centered upon the selected electron. This act does not violate conservation or coherence, because the spirit exists outside measure. Its reconfiguration is not a loss, but a fold, an internal refactoring of infinite identity into finite selfhood. The spirit does not shrink in volume, it focuses in resolution. From this point of reentry, the spiritual journey begins again, not from death, but from undifferentiated perception, as at the origin of the cosmos. The filtered structure that emerges through the prime number selected in this new cycle defines the perceived reality that the spirit will call life. Thus, what we experience as temporal existence is simply the continuous repetition, reality frame after reality frame, in an iterative journey through a nested, self-similar, infinitely ramified structure of a multifractal deep dive. 8. Evolution of the prime number. At this juncture, between what feels like death and rebirth, the spirit may choose to update its filtering metric. If, for instance, it previously filtered reality using p equals 41, it may now choose p equals 43, symbolizing not just a numerical increment, but a qualitative shift in cosmic geometry. This shift will cause changes in the overall structure of reality, as each prime number configures a new cosmos and a new set of possible macroscopic states of physical systems existing outside that variant body's immediate field of awareness. But the underlying identity of the spirit persists across all transitions, a single thread running through an infinite loom of reality. Epilogue, this metaphysical system harmonizes. Mathematical realism. Reality is a timeless mathematical structure, infinitely complex and multifractally layered. Spiritual dynamics. Consciousness is not emergent but fundamental. The spirit is a computational observer navigating mathematical space. Quantum indeterminacy. Electrons are informational gateways, encoding diverging subspaces containing alternate timelines through which the spirit navigates. Reincarnation. A metaphysical process of resolution shifting across layers of the same mathematical cosmos, guided by evolving prime filters. This theory offers a rational metaphysical framework for atheistic spirituality.